Hello everyone, so today we're going to continue developing the topics from the book Grammar and Beyond. Today we have to start with unit 25, that is phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs are really interesting because they can be really used in different circumstances, and the purpose of using them is to enrich your vocabulary and making sure to have a plethora of words to use in different circumstances. We have used phrasal verb before, if you remember, on different classes while we were at the academy, and we already know how to use them. But today, I want to focus specifically on the uses and the different structures that you're going to follow with these certain types of verbs. First, we're going to start with the definition of a phrasal verb. Really simple, in just a few words, it says that a phrasal verbs are two words or two-word verbs that they include a verb and a particle. In this case, a particle is a small word like up, down, back, up, off, or in. Let me simplify this. It's just that a phrasal verb is just any verb that you want, plus not a particle, but a preposition. What's a preposition? A preposition is a word that you normally use to indicate something, either to indicate that something belongs to something. Like, for example, if you remember from the prepositions, we have things like up, down, between, and many, many others that we know already. However, when they are joined together with another verb, they can change the meaning. For example, let's take a look at the one that we have over here. Does your money usually run out before the end of the month? In the case of the verb run, you already know its meaning. It means to move from one place to another in a quick fashion. But when you join it together with the particle out, then we're going to change its meaning, and it doesn't mean to run, but it means in this case, basically that something is ending or finishing. That means that in the sentence, we're talking like a person is asking another if their money still exists or they still have money at the end of the month. For example, we have another one, sit down with a notebook. In the case of the verb sit, when we talk about sit, we talk about you sit in a certain place, in any place, in the ground, in your bed, in a chair, whatever. But when we talk about sit down in specifically, we're talking about sitting on a chair or sitting on a desk. That is the cases in which we're going to use it. For using intransitive phrasal verbs, if you remember in the last class, we saw what are transitive verbs and intransitive verbs. Just in a quick summary for you, an intransitive verb is the type of verb that doesn't take an object. Doesn't answer the question what or who. For example, in the case of an intransitive verb, I can tell you the sentence, I run in the park. With the verb run, if you think about it, you cannot answer the questions what or who. In that case, you can just say where do I run? In the park. Therefore, it's not a transitive verb. In the case of a transitive verb, I can say I eat cookies, and I eat. What do I eat? Cookies, transitive verb. So we're going to take a look at this structure that is really simple. You just need a subject, a verb, and a particle. So I can say I sit down, okay? I sat down, you sat down. We can use all the subjects. With the third person singular, that is he, she, or it, always remember that we are going to have, as always, the verb change with the third person singular rule, if you remember that. So right now we will continue with the use of the intransitive phrasal verbs. The first use that we have, that is letter A. They do not need an object to complete their meaning, okay? Since they are intransitive, that means that they don't need an object, like in the case of transitive verbs that they will need it. For example, I have, sit down with a notebook. I can just tell you sit down, and that's enough. You understand, you don't need an object over there. You understand what you need to do, really simple. But with a notebook, it's just a complement, but it's not needed in the sentence unless you want to be extra specific. Do you eat out too much? Eat out. Can we answer the question what or who? No, right? We can answer the question where. Where do you eat out? Or when do you eat out? But not what or who. The particle comes after the verb. This, in most of the cases, we will see some exceptions, that we will always have the phrasal verb plus the particle. Normally, they cannot be separated just in some specific cases, but we're going to see it a little bit further in the explanation. They came back from their vacation today. They came back. Can we answer who and what? No, okay? So we continue, and came back, that means that they returned from a place. Note. Do not put a word or phrase between the verb and the particle. This is really important. That means that the phrasal verbs cannot be separated. Just to want to clarify, not in all the cases, but in most of the cases, They cannot be separated one from the other. You cannot say they came from vacation back today. No, you say they came back from vacation today by not separating and with the subject in the middle. The meaning of some phrasal verbs is easy to understand. Why is it easy to understand? Because sometimes it depends on the context of the sentence to understand what is implied with the verb. For example, I go out every night. Really easy, right? We don't need to think about it to understand its meaning, and as well, we don't need a lot of explanation to understand what's the meaning of this phrasal verb in a specific. Can you stand up for a moment? So can you stand up for a moment? So stand up. We know it already. It's over here in the tip of our tongues, and we don't need anything else. She went away for a month, and then she came back. No explanation needed. Some intransitive phrasal verbs have more than one meaning. The meaning of the phrasal verb is not easy to understand. To understand the meaning of a phrasal verb, it will depend on the context of the sentence. What the sentence tries to imply or what the sentence tries to transmit to you, the reader. For example, she walked into the room and then ran out. So that means that she left. She ran away as fast as she could. Does your money run out? Be completely used. So that means that run out, that is finishing, that is ending, that you don't have any more. So you see that depending on the context, if we apply the same logic of the first sentence of this one, this is not going to make sense. Does your money run out? It's like, does your money run away? Does your money leave? Does your money leave you? No, doesn't make any sense. But we can say run out, that is ending, that is finishing, and it makes perfect sense. So this comes with your reasoning. There's nothing that you can use to determine the meaning, just your reasoning. That you analyze the sentence and you understand what is being implied with what is being written or what do you want to write. The plane takes off at 12. That means leaves. That leaves the place, leaves the airport. Debt counseling has taken off, grown, or been successful. In the case of taking off, it's a really, really interesting word because it is always used when we talk about success. When we talk about that everybody's taking off, like for example, a new band or a new music group is coming out and they are being really popular, they are taking off. So that means that they are becoming more and more popular and successful at the same time. My car broke down, that means that it stopped working. It's not useful anymore. But in the case of I broke down in tears, that means that I started to cry and I started doing a certain action. We worked out at a gym. That means that we exercise. Remember, the verb work means to do an action that gives you a certain result. But in the case of workout, it means to do exercise. My job didn't work out. So that means the things didn't go as planned and things were not as you expected them. There were some mistakes or things that were not considered at the beginning, and that was the end result of everything that happened. Many everyday spoken commands use intransitive phrasal verbs. So in this case, we're talking about commands. Commands are orders that you can give to a person or are suggestions or things that you want to recommend. For example, hold on. If I tell you to wait, if I want you to tell you, okay, hold on a minute or hold it up a minute, that means that I'm telling you to wait. We use it on a regular basis, and that's really common on spoken form. Come on, like, hurry up, let's go, you can do it, come on. We have always used this word many, many times. You already know what it means. Look out, watch out, is the same as saying be careful. As you see, they are intransitive, they don't need an object, they don't need anything else added. In fact, we just need this verb and we understand what the meaning is. Go ahead, go on, sit down, and there are many others that we can discuss on, but they are the most simple to use. So in the case of some others, for example, breakdown, that means stop working or lose control. Remember that some of them can have two meanings. Come back, that means return. Come on, that means to hurry or start. Eat out, to eat in a restaurant. So remember, eat out is to eat in a restaurant, okay? To go to a certain place, like for example, you go to Inayami, you go to Simmer Down, or many places like those ones. And I say, okay, we're going to eat out at, for saying something, La Pampa. Okay? You go out and eat at that restaurant. Get along, to have a good relationship with other people. We have used this phrasal verb before. Give up, that means to stop, and also that means to stop trying. It is not over here in the presentation, but it means stop trying. Like if you give up on doing something, that means that you stop trying. You're not doing it anymore. Go ahead, start or continue. For example, in our presentation, I can tell you, okay, your time is ready. Go ahead with the topic. Start doing it. Go away is to leave somebody or to leave a place. Go on, continue. I can tell you, okay, go on, continue. Don't you worry. Go out, not stay home. Like we will go out this following weekend. Where we don't know, but we will go out. Go up is to rise and to go higher. Like for example, if I can say, Jeremy is going out or going up in the company, that means that he's ascending on different positions to the company. Grow up to become an adult or to grow. Like for example, become an adult is part of the natural process of growing, but when you tell somebody grow up, it's like you're telling him mature, stop being so immature. They try to act like an adult, or I try to act like the person of your age. Hang on is to wait or to keep on going. Hold on is to wait or to persist. Look out is to be careful. Move in is to be living somewhere. It's like when you take your place, you take all your things and you move to a different house, to a different country, to a different city, and then you take all your things with you. Burn out, as we say, is to leave or be completely used. Set in is to begin and continue for a long time. Sit down is to sit or take a seat. Stand up is to stand or rise. Take off is to leave, grow, or be successful. Watch out is to be careful, and work out is to exercise. We know the meaning of these phrasal verbs. I recommend you to study them and to use them because they are really common to use later on in our different activities that we're going to make, and as well in spoken English. They are the most common ones and the most easy to learn. We're going to start with the transitive phrasal verbs, and if you remember, a transitive verb is the one that needs an object. That means that they need to answer the questions what or who to determine what's the object of the sentence and what are we talking about. For example, have you taken out a loan? What's a loan? It's an amount of money that you ask the bank to, so they can give it to you for a certain purpose in general. Like you want to buy a car, you want to study abroad, you want to start a business, they can give you a loan. Have you taken out a loan? Have you taken on what? A loan. So we can answer the question. Can you pay it back? Okay, can you pay it back? Can you pay what? It back. You see that here is one of the phrasal verbs that have an exception, because here pay back is the phrasal verb, but we have a subject in the middle. We're going to see the difference over here. For using phrasal verbs in a sentence, it's really easy, not so complicated. You just need a subject, the verb, the particle in this case, but in this case, you will need an object. For example, I figure out the budget. For example, I came out with a budget. I planned it. I understand it now. I figured you out, we figured it out. He or she figures it out. Remember, third person singular rules always apply. In the other case, we will have the object pronoun. Okay, notice this. I figure the budget out. When we have phrasal verbs that are transitive, okay, they can answer the question what or who. We can have a noun in the middle between the verb and the phrase. When it is an intransitive verb, an intransitive phrasal verbs, you can't. You cannot do it. That's not proper. But with phrasal verbs that are transitive, you totally can have an object pronoun in the middle of the phrasal verb. I figured it out, they figured it out, etc., etc. The same happens with third person singulars. Now we're going to talk about the uses of transitive verbs. Some phrasal verbs are transitive, they need an object to complete the meaning. In this case, it's not that they need an object because they have something to target as an object, but they needed to have meaning. They needed to have sense in the sentence. He paid back the money he owed. If I tell you he paid back, but he paid back what? The money, the loan, vengeance? We don't know. That's why we need the object to know for sure what we are talking about. She added up her expenses. But if I say, she added up what? We need more context. We need an object, we need a complement for that sentence. Most transitive phrasal verbs are separable. This means that the noun objects can be either before or after the particle. What I was mentioning before is that most transitive verbs can be separable. They can be broken apart into pieces. The verb and the particle, and in the middle, you can have any object that you want. Like for example, write down your expenses will be without breaking it apart, but write your expenses down. That is when you break it. Just remember, this happens just with transitive verbs. Object pronouns come before the particle, okay? So that means that a pronoun like them, us, your, etc., many others, they will go before the particle. So they will go always in the middle. Do not put an object pronoun after the particle, okay? So you don't say write them down, write down them. No, that doesn't make any sense, and that doesn't even sound natural. But if you say write them down, then we're talking about business, okay? Those are the uses of transitive phrasal verbs. We're going to see some others. Indefinite pronouns, okay? Something, nothing, someone, or everyone can come before or after the particle. What's an indefinite pronoun? Is a kind of pronoun that we use when we don't know of what kind of person, the quantity of people, the kind of person, animals, or things or objects we are talking about. Therefore, they are the pronouns that we say something, nothing, someone, no one, anyone, everybody, anyone, anything that you can imagine, anything as well. It's an indefinite pronoun or a definite object pronoun. She throws away everything. You see, it goes after the verb and the particle. She throws everything away. In this case, you can use them either at the end or in the middle between the verb and the particle, and no problem. Remember, use indefinite pronouns. Which are they? Something, nothing, someone, no one, everyone, everybody, well, not everywhere, but everybody, everyone, etc. Many others that we can come to mind. Longer subjects usually go after the particle. So for example, is he setting up a new financial company? What do I mean by longer subjects? I mean a complete subject, okay? A subject that includes all of these modifiers and all the things that are there extra for the verb, or for the noun, sorry. For example, I say, he's setting up what? What is he setting up? A new financial management company. So that means that here we're talking about a company. But all of these things is just a complement for the word company. Therefore, we have a complete subject. If this were English grammar, we'll be talking about a complete subject that will be a new financial management company. And the simple subject will be company. Therefore, everything that goes together with the noun that we're talking about, since we're talking about adjectives, determiners, is going to be included. Okay? Is he setting a new financial management company up? That cannot be done. As I was telling you, all of this is the subject. Therefore, we cannot have it in the middle of those two words. Some transitive phrasal verbs have more than one meaning. We discussed this with the intransitive. The same happens with the transitives. They're bringing up 3 children. That means raising a child. That means to making sure that they become an adult and they have everything they need. I like to bring up the subject of money, to introduce the topic or to start talking about something. Please turn down the radio. It's too loud. That means lower the volume, try to put it a little bit quieter, and that's those kinds of stuff. I turned down the invitation to the party. That means that you rejected, you didn't accept at all what the invitation was for. Some phrasal verbs have one meaning when they are transitive. They have different meanings when they are intransitive. In some of the cases, like worked out a budget. That's transitive. Remember that they can be transitive or intransitive depending on the situation and the meaning that you have in the sentence. I worked out a budget. That means I planned it, I figured it out, I came up with, I think about it, etc. I worked out at a gym every day. Intransitive because we cannot answer the question who or what with these kinds of verb in this sentence in a specific. So with that, we continue and we're going to see some other uses. We have the case of add up, bring up, build up, figure it out, find out, give up, pay back, pay off, put away, put off, set up, that is planned, sort out, take out, throw away, turn down, work out, write down, and many others to come, but we're going to stick with this one. I would recommend you that in this presentation or in this video, you take like a little screenshot of these phrasal verbs so you remember which are the most common ones. We're going to stop this class with these ones, and then I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your day. So we have the first one that is add up, that is add together or to combine. Like for example, I can tell you, okay, if I'm buying something at a restaurant, for saying Burger King, for saying something, and you tell me, okay, what can I add up to my order? So that means what can I combine? If I can ask for a burger and so probably some bacon fries or something like that, what can I add up, combine? Bring up, to raise a child or to introduce a topic. So for example, I can tell you, Andrea is bringing up many ideas about segregation in general. So that means that she's introducing many ideas, many topics to talk about. Build up, to accumulate. This is really used by dentists Like for example, when they tell you, you know that you have a buildup of plaque in your teeth, that means that plaque is being accumulated on your teeth. Figure it out. It's like find an answer or to understand. If you tell me, teacher, how am I going to do this, or how am I going to hand this to you? Figure it out. Right? That means find an answer. Understand it. Try to do it on your own. Find out is to discover information or learn. But for example, I can tell you, if you were my best friend, hey, did you know what I find out yesterday? I find out that if you put water on this thing, this reaction is going to happen. I discovered it. Give up, to quit, to not try anymore. Never give up. You remember. Pay back, to repay. In this case, we're talking about two senses. To repay some money that you already own to a person, or to repay an action. Like for example, if I do something mean to you and you pay it back, that means that you are looking for revenge and you're repaying the action that I did. Pay off, to repay completely. That means that you owe somebody some money or some different financial things, and then you paid everything completely, you are paying off. Put away is to save for the future or to put it in a correct place. Sometimes it's to put something in a place so nobody can see it. For example, if you are using your phone in class, I can tell you, please put it away. So you know that you have to save it for later use. Put off is to delay. If I can tell you, we will put off the class for next week because I have something to do. That means delaying and putting it on hold. Set up, we already discussed that, is to plan or to build something. Sort out is to organize or to solve. Like for example, if I say I will sort out all my shirts, for saying something, all my shirts by color, by size, but many other by patterns and many other things. Take out is to remove or to obtain something officially. Like take out is like, for example, take out your glasses, you can tell me, and you can see my eyes without them. That means that I'm not wearing them. Throw away, to get rid of something or to discard it. We know the meaning of this one. We have been using it for a long time. Turn down is to lower the volume or reject it. Like for example, you know, I can tell you, yesterday I invited my girlfriend to go to the movies and she turned me down, and for this reason and this. Really simple. Workout is to solve or to calculate, and also remember to do exercise, depending on the case or the way that you're using it. And write down is to write on paper. Like for example, I tell you, write down the following, and you write it over there in your notebook to make sure that everything's going smoothly. With that, we're going to end the explanation of phrasal verbs. I hope that this explanation is helpful to you. Remember that you can ask questions in the Google Classroom platform, and I'm there to answer your questions. You can contact me anytime, and I'm gladly will help you out. Without further ado, that will be the ending of the topic. Remember to check it out for doing the different activities on Google Classroom, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye and take care.